Hi, we're the Psychic Twins.
I'm Terry.
And I'm Linda. John of God is a self-proclaimed healer and a psychic surgeon in Brazil, also known as João Teixeira da Faria, or João de Deus. He is based in Albânia, Brazil, and for 50 years he ran the Casa de Dom Inácio de Loyola. I'm not sure I pronounced that right. A spiritual healing center. It was there that Faria performed countless unlicensed medical and surgical procedures on thousands of visitors. On December 16, 2018, he was arrested for what prosecutors consider potentially the largest sexual abuse scandal in Brazil history. It's just horrific.
Yeah.
It's just horrific.
It's horrifying. I mean, the worst I've ever heard.
Oh my God.
If it's true. Throngs of visitors would flock to his casa, and they were all going to be healed. They were getting psychic surgeries. He was gouging them with scalpels and knives, and he's not a trained doctor.
Without anesthesia.
Yeah. As many as 5,000 people, most of them foreigners, used to visit the casa every single week, believe it or not. It was estimated in 60 Minutes Australia in 2014 that Faria actually made $10 million a year. Then it all began to crumble. Victims began to tell their stories publicly, and within 30 hours, more than 200 complaints against John of God were received by the prosecutor's office for sex abuse. The number of sexual abuse accusations has since reached over 600.
From all over the world. The complaints.
Oh, yeah.
Victims as young as 11 claim to have suffered terrible sex abuse by the faith healer. His own daughter, Dalva Teixeira, now age 49, called him a monster and alleged that she was beaten and raped by her father for many years. All the victims recount John of God inviting them in for private consultations, turning them so they would face away from him. He would then perform sexual acts as part of their cure, even raping them with their own mothers and chaperones present. When the women asked him why he was hurting them like that, he reportedly told them, "You need my energy. It just comes that way, so I can do the cleaning on you." One of the women was asked, "Well, why did you take so long to tell the story?" And she said, "Because I thought no one would believe me." This man, he's a very powerful man, and she was afraid to speak up.
Yeah, and that's why people still don't speak up about it, because no one believes them.
In this age of Me Too.
Even now with Me Too.
Yeah,
people are afraid because look how they're treated.
We're finding out how for many decades this could go on, because people, especially in foreign countries, had nobody to speak out for them and nobody to represent them.
Some say they were abused when they were as young as children or even teens. And after the cases were shown on TV Global, hundreds of women who also felt sexually abused by John of God sought the public ministry and the civil police to tell them their stories about what happened and what John of God had done to them. The prosecutions even set up a task force across the country to hear the victims.
As if these allegations were not horrific enough, an even more horrible story broke. John of God is also now accused of running baby farms where young girls were held captive and raped, and their infants were sold to people on the black market around the world. Allegedly, these young girls were murdered after 10 years of repeatedly giving birth. He ran what's called a sex slave farm, apparently, and sold babies to childless couples who could not have children themselves. He allegedly used women as slaves at his rural gem mines and farms. When he was arrested last December 2018 in Brazil, he was found with bags full of gems, emeralds and rubies from those mines. The activist Sabrina Ben Cortman claimed the celebrity medium ran a baby trafficking operation where children were farmed in Brazil before being sold to these childless couples in other countries like Europe, Australia, and even in the US. Some families, get this, they paid up to $50,000, between $20,000 and $50,000 for a baby. And there's been a lot of testimonials about this happening. And Sabrina Ben Cortman was very instrumental in causing this story to come out.
Yeah, yeah.
And have more to say about her at the very end. So John of God denies the accusations.
Of course.
Yeah.
But he's in jail now.
Yes, he is, thank goodness.
Well, even Oprah got duped by this guy. On March 17th, 2013, Oprah's Next Chapter, Season 2, Episode 116, aired a televised show entitled John of God. Well, apparently Oprah traveled with her staff to Brazil to meet and to talk with this so-called healer.
Yeah, we saw that episode.
Yeah, I remember watching it with her. She also interviewed Magnus Kempe from Sweden about his surgery, and she interviewed 5 Americans who hoped that they would be cured of their illnesses. And she later said it was a very powerful experience, apparently. I think she even said it was like blissful or something.
At one point, yes, she said that she watched him perform a surgery on a woman's breast and without anesthesia, and it was bloody, and she left with feeling blissful.
I would be on the floor. I would have passed out. Well, in December 2018, Faria was accused of sexual abuse, rape, and pedophilia by more than 600 women. After the allegations became public, Oprah deleted everything, the interviews and videos from her website,
everything.
Anything connected with John of God, and she released a note stating that she hopes justice will be served, and I think we all hope for that. At one point, about 15 years ago, I have to say that we had a couple of clients who wanted us to go to see John of God in Brazil.
Yes.
With them, and we got such a horrible, creepy feeling just looking at this guy, tuning into the energy, that we immediately said, no way, there's no way we're going there. We quickly declined.
John of God's first visit to Australia and a live event in 2014 in November of that year in Sydney Olympic Park garnered much media attention. 60 Minutes Australia visited Faria in Brazil and aired an investigative TV report on TV back in 2014, examining his controversial treatments and the money he made and the sexual assault allegations against him. The program was hosted by someone named Michael Usher. Usher revealed that a woman was declared cured of breast cancer by John of God while he was in a trance, but she reportedly died not long after that visit. A woman with MS, who is in the 1998 report, said she visited Faria with the hope of walking again. Later reported she got worse and is still in a wheelchair to this day. Her trip to Brazil to see Faria cost $5,000. Usher reported that none of the other people who made the trip to the Casa had improved, and that was 40 Australians they interviewed.
Oh my God, none of them?
None of those people who were interviewed. Some around the world have said they felt some benefits, but not nearly as many who said they didn't feel any.
Well, Usher's report said that thousands in Faria's audience hoped to get spiritual surgery or psychic surgery from him. Dr. David Rosengren personally examined and reported these practices as barbaric, saying the modern medical world could not condone this behavior in any way whatsoever, unquote. Since a benefactor secured land for John of God in 1979, he reportedly made about $10 million a year from the vast revenue stream, including his regular international tours. The Casa sold bottles of blessed water at $3 a pop, passion flower pills, which were $25 each, guided tours, the cafes, the shops that sold the required white clothing, gemstones, books, tapes, and jewelry. They were making bank.
Quite an operation he had running.
It was an enterprise, like a cartel, really.
He claims to have 37 spirits inside his body that are incorporated through the trance work that he does, and they come out according to whatever a person may need for that healing. Questioned by reporters, the medium said, "I'm innocent," and walked away. On December 12, 2018, the public prosecutor of the Brazilian state of Goiás called for the arrest of Faria after multiple allegations of sexual abuse. On December 16, 2018, John of God surrendered himself to the police near the city of Abadiânia in Brazil. The number of sex abuse accusations is without precedent, and the claims of atrocities are growing daily. Many have called it a cult. His exploitation of women of faith is an age-old story with similarities to many churches around the world.
And
over
centuries. It's been going on for millennia.
Even the Catholic Church, it's been compared to. And John of God was enabled by a large network of people who were greedy and power hungry, it seems.
Clearly.
It boggles our minds how somebody could get away with these horrendous crimes for so many years. Decades. And actually, it was like 4 decades, 4 or 5, I think.
Yep. Well, his wife, Anna, may be indicted as an accomplice in illegal gun possession and money laundering. When their properties were searched, police found $410,000 in cash, many guns, and valuable gemstones from his mines. She claims all accusations are slander, of course. If all of this, or even any of it, turns out to be true, this is really one of the worst cases in history and that we've ever heard of, and we've seen a lot.
Well, apparently this kind of faith healing and psychic surgery is very commonly accepted in Brazil, and it does occur in other countries as well. It's not that everybody's a fake that claims to be able to do spiritual healing.
No, I'm sure there are real.
We know there are some gifted people that do work in mysterious ways that we can't know what the science is behind that, but this particular case really it sort of blows your mind when you think about the level of predation by this one person. I think has to be the worst ever to come out in history. And again, we have to use the word allegedly, but so many people have reported the same kinds of things that we feel there's probably going to be some kind of conviction here.
And plus they're going to have to get DNA from the children and the babies, and if they match DNA to the baby farm babies, that's the clincher. That'll keep him in jail for life.
For the baby farm thing, sadly, and this is a recent development that we just learned about, the woman behind the arrest of faith healer John of God, Sabrina Ben Cortman, mentioned her earlier. She's an activist who's been claiming that he was running these baby farms, and they're sex slave farms. And she's unfortunately taken her own life in Barcelona not long after she came out with these claims. It's a really sad story. A sex abuse support group, Víctimas Unidas, which worked with Sabrina Ben Cortman, has said she has left a note explaining why she took her life. Her eldest son, Gabriel Baum, confirmed her death, writing on Facebook, "She took the last step so we could live. They killed my mother." And, some people, of course, the Alex Jones people are claiming it was a hoax. She faked her death. We don't believe that.
I have heard different people disputing it.
But more people are saying they know for a fact that she probably has, killed herself. And sadly, that's the case. She was an ex-Mormon, by the way, Sabrina, and she was abused in the Mormon church for 12 years, she said. The abuse starting when she was only 4 years old, and it went till she was 16 when she was impregnated by one of her abusers. A few years later, she began her journey fighting against powerful religious leaders. And in the last years, she was living in different countries even every week because these powerful leaders were threatening her life and the lives of her sons. So it's pretty intense. Wow. She did some amazing work. I wanted to mention here that some very high-profile people have been alleged to have seen John of God at his retreat, including Bill Clinton. Supermodel Naomi Campbell is rumored to be among the high-profile celebrities that visited him. He's 77 now. But
John of God is 77. He's
but it's just a horrifying case, and
it really is.
We don't think enough. It's actually been a media blackout in this country. We haven't heard this story before because it's mostly in Portuguese and Brazilian papers that it's come out.
Yeah, so you're going to hear a lot more about it probably after the trial. But we wanted to ask you guys, did you go to see John of God? Did you go to Brazil to the Casa? Did you get a healing? If you did you feel better? Did you feel worse? What was the energy that you were sensing about the whole vibe of the place? Tell us your experience. Share your stories in the comments section below. We would love to hear them. Stay safe. Hit like and subscribe.
And we'll see you in the future.